delimitation of everything, whether it is movement, so speak on that. Now, that is the constitutional report.
So with your permission, shall we start? Thanks everyone for being here today. Really honored to have you on. I won't say much because I'm quite honored and it's a privilege to have dignitaries here to join us at Democracy Dialogues. This episode is on Focus Bangladesh, and I'll just take a minute to say thanks to our mentor, Sheikh Iqtidar Saji. Most of you know him. He retired as a additional secretary MOUD, and he had a very celebrated stint with the Ministry of Home Affairs also. He was vice chairman DDA, and he has held many notable positions in Uttar Pradesh as well. So, under his mentorship, we started this think tank Janneti a few years ago. It is a policy think tank where under his leadership and mentorship, we have held quite a few events which have resulted in some white papers and research documents on how to strengthen the democratic processes in this nation. We've had meetings around education, healthcare, women empowerment, and of late SDGs and sustainability. On the sidelines, coinciding with the G20 summit, it was decided to make it more meaningful in the geopolitical and risk assessment space. So we decided that we will have an informed decision among the notable persons who know the subject on how our immediate neighborhood is shaping up in regards to progress and how it impacts the progress of our nation. So without much ado, I'll also give the mic to Sir to share a context and then request all the dignitaries present to share a word about themselves so we know who's all here and everyone gets to know each other. Over to you, sir. Thanks.
Good evening, friends. Not naming anyone especially for welcoming you, but I know quite a few of you, and I would like to present to you one of our dialogues. It's a chain of events that we are planning to do, and we have already done one of the events. So it's my pleasure to invite you all to this small gathering. And we expect that this roundtable will come up with some redoubtable and good sorts of topics. Bangladesh is our neighbor, and we have been blessed with common culture, common language, and lots of other commonalities. In fact, our national animals are also common. The same thing, Bengal tiger. So a lot of commonalities, and culture is also similar. Language is similar. National anthem was made by the same person, Rabindranath Tagore. So a lot of commonalities. We have shared a lot of history, and we are part and parts of their history, and they are part of our history. So with this in background, we can see how important it is for us to understand the policies there, how far we can assess their potential, their growth, and align our policies also to see that there is overall welfare of both the nations which will come up. As far as democracy is concerned, it is firstly the right to choose your government. It is framed by the rule of law, and there will be active participation of citizens along with exercise of the rights. These are the four fundamentals of democracy that both of us share, both of us have, and it is a happy thing that active, dynamic democracy is there in both the countries. And it is good for us to understand where they stand, where we stand. Economically, you will see that they have progressed very far. The per capita income of Bangladesh today is expected to be higher than that of India. And in the next 5 to 7 years, they are going to be a middle income country rather than a less developed country. So there are a lot of things we have to also take from them, and they have also adopted a lot of our policies and frameworks. I congratulate the organization, Unity and IBFF, for taking the initiative to bring to awareness the commonalities between the two countries and challenges facing the two countries. Of course, there are certain givens. For example, the big brother sort of fear is always there from either from east or from west, whatever. But we have to live with it. What our nation has given, that we have to live with it. Large part of Bangladesh is under risk of being affected by climate change. There are a huge amount of land which may get submerged if the levels of the oceans rise. So there are a lot of commonalities, a lot of common challenges we have to face. So I take the opportunity to welcome all of you once again, and I wish that people will contribute positively to our understanding. Thanks.
So kindly introduce yourself and you can
I just pass the mic so that each of us can introduce ourselves quickly. Then we start off with discussions.
Thank you, Dipti. It's a great pleasure and privilege for me to be here. My name is Arun Goyal. I am the director of Academy of Business Studies, which is a think tank on trade, investment, WTO, and we have been at this job now for 40 years. And I visited Bangladesh many times. My wife is Bengali. So I do have a close relationship with Bangladesh, with Bengal rather, and I will take this opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts of India-Bangladesh relations, and we wish Bangladesh the very best, and more I will tell later, but I'll pass on the mic to the Manjevar.
Thank you. I am Colonel U.B. Singh. I had been in the army for a very long time and from 71 Pradhan. And after that, I joined politics, that was in 2014, along with the DK Singh and the movement. And since then I am there. I am in the veteran cell of the BJP headquarters and looking after that constituency case. That was one part. The second part, I have been the national monitor with the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Minority Affairs. My focus has all been on the implementation part of it. You see, whenever we sit in a air-conditioned atmosphere and we talk very good things in life, in fact, I always yearn for it and generally don't get a chance to meet such a luminary. But I have been in last 20 years realized that implementation has been always a problem. And given a chance, I will be able to correlate certain issues. I was in Guwahati for 3 years, commanded the military intelligence unit, and I was in Tripura for 3 years. So 6 years I have spent in Northeast, and that is my background on the Northeast, and that's all. I will talk later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipti ji. Thank you, Aman ji, for inviting me, and I think it's a privilege and an honor. My name is Shamal Ray, and I am a management professional, and economics, finance, and governance issues is something that of great interest to me, a lifelong passion, particularly when you get to know that Bangladesh, which was described not very long ago as the international basket case by Dr. Henry Kissinger, today has a higher GDP per capita than India. So obviously they have got some things right. I hope at the end of this discussion, where such learned and experienced persons are there, we will try to find out what are the things that they got right, as obviously they did, and perhaps what else needs to be done. I look forward to the proceedings.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all. I am here. Looking at the topics, what I feel that I am quite advised. My name is R.V. Singh. I had a long leg in Ministry of Home Affairs, various branches of IB, BPRD, and subjects related to international borders. Well, then I served, Colonel Saab has got a very long experience of 6 years, but then I was having 3.5 years experience at Indo-Burma border and Makwan 9, right from the days when the insurgency started sprouting alongside our border. But these are very little things, and other experiences of the life of 40 years lengthy service to the government. I am little exposed to this Bangladesh, except for that what I believe that there is something very common like ethnicity, humanity, and a sense of Indianness. What we see whenever we are at a foreign land, we meet a person from Bangladesh, we feel that there is some Indianness common in this. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanji. I'm a retired senior Babu from External Affairs Ministry. Thank you for inviting me. Now, basically, I work in limitless areas of empowerment, which includes this also. And one knows Bangladesh well. Our problem is that, like all failures of India in the neighboring countries and South Asia, Bangladesh is another like blatant example. Let's stop.
Thank you, Amanji, for having me here. I am Ashok Vihuria. I coordinate the activities of South Asia Center at the Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, which has been renamed Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. We closely monitor developments in the region, in the neighboring countries, and looking forward to interacting with you all.
Thank you, Jananiti and IBF for inviting me. Thank you, Amal and Abhishek. My name is Rachna Sharma, everyone, and good afternoon to all of you. I have my own organization. It's called Furo Innovations. Our intent is to build the Union of South Asia going forward. We are working very hard and very strategically and intelligently on that. And I am also the chairperson for Harvard Alumni Entrepreneurs in India as its alumni volunteer. And I'm really looking forward to listen to everyone, and if I have something to contribute, I would definitely speak, and I'm looking forward to the session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aman and Mr. Abhishek. I am Advocate Ananya Roy. I practice in the Supreme Court of India. And about myself, I can tell that I was born and brought up in North Chowbis Pargana. And the Bangladesh border is just 70 kilometers away from my home. So I have seen the be it a collaboration or clash between the Indian and Bangladeshi culture. So eventually we'll know it.
Thank you, for inviting me. I am Noor Muhammad, VP Cadre Officer, 77 lakhs. I worked in election, in fact 1994, session dragged me to elections. And then I could not get out till 2005. So I was in UP earlier and then Deputy Election Commissioner in Election Commission of India. Then the UN sent me to Afghanistan for conducting, I was one of the election commissioners in Afghanistan for the first parliamentary election. Then I went there as advisor for elections. And finally, I retired as Secretary, National Disaster Management Authority. And after retirement, I became election trainer in the institute created by Election Commission of India. I was there for about 9 years. And then at that time, NDI Washington invited me to do a consultancy in Bangladesh. And that was to draft best practices guidelines for elections in Bangladesh. So I did that. So this much about knowing about the election process. Now Bangladesh, of course, I did that consultancy. In addition to that, a number of trainees from Bangladesh have been coming to the institute. In fact, this institute called India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management. In that about 105 countries at that time sent their people to train, and to which I was involved. And now, of course, the number has gone little up. So I'll be mostly talking about little bit about elections. It's the area I know a little bit, and I look forward to your inputs on other areas. Thank you.
Very good afternoon, everybody. My name is Advocate Dr. Harsh Pathak. I am a practicing lawyer. I had the opportunity to work with the Government of India as a standing counsel in the Supreme Court, and we look after various bilateral projects where we have got infrastructure projects related to mining between India and Bangladesh, and we deal with them on environmental issues and on the various issues on economic level as well. So I got some exposure of the policy level of the commercial activities under the bilateral agreements between the two countries. Second, I had the opportunity to be the part of Electoral Reforms Committee of the Government of India and Election Commission, where we have done a comparative analysis of the electoral process in the neighboring countries. So that's another exposure where I get an opportunity to work with Bangladesh. Apart from that, being a lawyer for ONGC and Coal India, we deal very, very closely with these northeastern corridors because we need Bangladesh assistance in the logistical movement of oil, petroleum and natural gas. So my focus is purely on economics and how economics makes the relationship good. That's the area where I work as a lawyer. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and it's a very esteemed group, and it's a pleasure for to have all these right minds in the room. I am a partner with Jan Niti. I also run an organization that is into learning and development. We have customers in India and US and other places. My focus has been in policy advocacy with Jan Niti for a while, and we've been looking at issues like circular economy, issues like which have social impact, issues like the way the culture is being transformed from one country to other country, and that's been my focus. Again, I will let Harmeet introduce.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Harmeet Singh. I'm the co-founder of IBA, which is called India Blockchain Alliance, and we've been into education sector for more than 2 decades now, and working on emerging technologies. And we've been working all over the globe, like we're working with around 14 to 16 countries, and we're working with their policies, with the governments and all. So that is where I come from, and I've been associated with Jan Niti for a long time now, and I'm part of the internal team. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon everybody. Myself Sanjay Kumar Singham. Basically I am a civil engineer and working in the on various projects in Delhi and Sian from last 30 years. I am not too much aware of this IBFF and Jan Niti. I have been also I am the working with IECSMA, Indo-European Chamber, Small and Medium Enterprises. I am the secretary, and I have been invited and come with my Dr. Vijay Tiwari, the country and president of this Indo-European Chamber, and he has informed that we are going for this regarding this Bangladesh matter with this is IBFF and Jan Niti. So I have been invited here. Thanks to all, and I am trying to understand the things deeply. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Vijay Tiwari, President Indo-European Chamber of Small and Medium Enterprises. We have office in Bangladesh, Dhaka, and maybe sometime we can jointly do a program in Dhaka. According to me, we were talking about GDP. The point is we have to understand Hindus and Muslims. Muslims even in India, they are hardworking, they do every kind of work. So that is one aspect which is making Bangladesh stronger in GDP. India में हिंदू तो काम करके व्हाइट कॉलर तो सारे करने में तैयार है, सबको सिविल सर्विसेज मिल जाए पढ़ लिख करके, सभी IAS बन जाए, IPS बन जाए, IFS बन जाए, बट बिजनेस में किसी को नहीं जाना है, छोटे छोटे काम तो बिल्कुल नहीं कर रहे हैं. So that is one big challenge, and which is the reason why Bangladesh is growing. And apart from investments from China, Russia is there, then Japan, JICA का बहुत सारा investment है वहाँ पे. So these are few factors, but we need to learn and we have to grow together. So let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is A.R. Ghanashyam. I spent, after finishing my education, I spent about 5 years in the industry, oil and shipping, and then I spent about 35 years in the Indian Foreign Service. And my knowledge of Bangladesh is not very much. I just wanted to give you 2 points from my side, very brief 2 points. There are 2 countries in our northern neighborhood, Nepal and Bangladesh. Bhutan, of course, is also there. The difference between the two, just to give you an idea, the area of both these countries is more or less the same, 148,000 square kilometers. Both of them are around the same number. The population of Nepal is 3 crores, 30 million. And the population of Bangladesh is 170 million, that is 17 crores. So literally there are 6 times the population in the same area. between the two. Now come to the statistics of GDP. Nepal is $141 billion and Bangladesh is 421. So in terms of per capita income as well as the GDP, if you see, despite the fact that they have the same area and they have 6 times the population, they are also 6 times bigger. And their per capita income is twice that of Nepal. This is something which we have to remember when we talk about Bangladesh. The second brief point that I wanted to make is democracy. Now, the world itself is moving from liberal democracy to illiberal democracy everywhere in the world. As per latest publications of the Freedom Index, less than 10-15% of the world is actually free. So the democracy is actually, they say, backsliding. All these areas that we are talking about in our own country and in our neighborhood, this becomes an important subject of discussion, not just for understanding the concept, but also because our life, our future, our freedom depends on democracy. We have been born here, we have been brought up here, and we will raise our children here, and they will continue to live in this part of the world for centuries to come. And democracy is something which is there in our blood. Will we be able to hold on to it? That is the question that we will continue to debate about. Thank you very much.
I am Moses Manohar. I thank Mr. Dipti Vinasa, who I know through a mutual friend, for generality, especially because it's a policy discussing institution. And all of you here, who I'm very impressed with your credentials. I hope I'm good enough to give some ideas. Of course, on Bangladesh itself, I'm not an expert like all of you, but in my time in Reuters, I spent time in Bangladesh too, and all over the world. My expertise is on wars, Iran, Iraq from the Iranian side, Yugoslavia from the Serb side, and Indonesia, in Timor, and Sri Lanka. But in peacetime, I have I was at one time running Reuters television for the region, and Bangladesh was under me, and so I had a great insight into what went on in the country. Unlike, of course, all of you are much more well versed on it. As head of Reuters television for the whole continent, of course, we had 51 countries, and Bangladesh was one of them. We did have an experience of what it was like. I now run a think tank called Global Dialogue Forum, and we have a foreign policy journal called Global Dialogue Review. We are perhaps the only one who has an office in all the world in China, and we are interlocutors between the two governments. We had a conference recently in June in KL, Kuala Lumpur, where that was the first time high-level Indians and Chinese met on the same stage, and with the full cooperation of Indian government and Chinese government on economic cooperation on an ASEAN platform. I myself, my credentials are that I was till 1998 a citizen born and brought up in Singapore, and I speak all the ASEAN languages, and my specialty is Chinese, of course. And so I would like to give you an insight into what I think, but it is slightly different because, like my dear friend here, Mr. Ghanshyam, I'm not that expert on Bangladesh per se, but I do have periodically discussions with ME on a greater vision, which is a vision for the Bay of Bengal and the community which India and Bangladesh should spearhead beyond, I feel, BIMSTEC into the extended community, Bay of Bengal community, as I understand from talking to the Dhaka officials, is up to Thailand, we should extend it up to Indonesia and Malaysia. And in that I believe that India has the substance because of its size and economic and other strengths. And Bangladesh has an intellectual quality. Please, I think we should not discount that Bangladesh was the intellectual force behind SARC, which we should acknowledge. And whatever happened to SARC, we can't blame them. So that is what I would like to talk about, that community and how we can cooperate with and collaborate with Bangladesh on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm Umesh Sharma. I am a legal practitioner, lawyer in Delhi, practicing in Delhi, and associated with this Abhiyan as a trustee. And I'll clarify my stand first, because please do not be driven away that I am a centrist. I am Central Government Standing Council appointed by this government, but before that I am a citizen of this country and a lawyer. So we have another colleague here. She will speak about the social fabric of Bangladesh and what we should know, what has not been given in the public domain. She belongs to that part of the country, so she has personal knowledge of all those things, social strata. She will speak, so I'll not dwell on that. Coming back to the subject determined today, I feel that the slide of democracy, as Sir Mr. Ghanshyam was saying, the democracy is sliding somewhere. And I am talking only about Bangladesh, not about the other countries or the entire world. Because I don't know, I have not studied, I am not from that field, external affairs is not my domain. Bangladesh, I have tried to understand and then see that the present regime, if you see, we can legally call it a democracy. Technically, it's a democracy, but hardly 15 seats of an opposition party by any means is not a democracy. Given the allegations of rigging, compromise with the election system, compromise with the legal system, so how are we concerned? That's the moot question. As a citizen, we are concerned, because as a citizen of India, we see I can speak. Thank you. We get the name of Bangladesh associated with, especially in north part of the India, refugees, criminals, or Tablighi Jamaat and all these things. But before that, I would say that if you read the freedom movement of this country, you'll come to know that the first whistle was blown from that part of the continent. And that means the freedom of a human being or freedom of a society is imbibed in that land. Somehow or the other is sliding down, we can say. Maybe it may slide down and come to a new stage. 71 onwards, if you see, 71 to 74, there was a nationalist government and they attained freedom, and then the father of the nation of Bangladesh was killed, and then there was military rule, and then in 91 they had a revamped constitution which has gone, I think, some 17 or 20 amendments till date. That means, not to name any political party or anybody, that means the masses are concerned about the dynamics of democracy. And I'm also not making a political statement, neither a religious statement, but the fact remains that by and large, the followers of Islam in that country have their own way of thinking, and that has a reflection on the democratic setup.
Sir, we can discuss in detail and let the introductions go on.
It's just the introduction.
Okay, I'm sorry. He said that you have to speak. Okay, I'm so sorry. You should have reminded me.
So we'll come back to.
Yeah, sure. I'll enlighten myself
I would
also.
not like to comment on other internal issues.
That is more important.
We would like to be objective.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'm Mukesh Gaur, former Employees Compensation Commissioner, Welfare Commissioner, and Joint Labor Commissioner in Delhi government. And now I'm practicing advocate. We are running a movement which is called Satya Abhiyan. We are trying to establish Satya in the society and in the politics too. So this is my brief introduction. Thank you.
Thanks all esteemed guests and our seniors. We are here to discuss about the democracy of Bangladesh. So question is why we are here sitting to discuss on this issue. Myself, Abhishek, and I am founder of Paper Psychographic Research and Strategic Consulting. So,
It's okay. Keep it speaking.
yes.
Getting
So, based on my 12 years of work, we work all over India, along with the neighboring states, and based on our political assessment and the situation which we can easily assess based on systematic analysis patterns, which is based on Pestel and SWOT analysis, as well as multiple other analysis. We identified that the current situation of Indian subcontinent is very volatile, and it is quite similar to 100 years back, because my forefather were from Bangladesh, and I am fourth, fifth generation Bangladeshi. So 2 months back, I along with Mr. Gaur met High Commissioner of Bangladesh and discussed over these issues and presented a letter on this issue, that how we can jointly work and shape better discussion, because the population of Bangladeshi migrant here in India is over 15 million as per government data, and same with Bangladeshi Hindus. The population of Bangladeshi Hindus is over 15 million in Bangladesh. So if we maintain good relationships between Bangladesh, then the life of these 30 plus million people will be good, otherwise they will suffer. So this is one point. Second point is India share biggest border with Bangladesh, and it is the 5th largest border in the world, and all are landlocked area. So we based on our past data, we can easily say that when there is a political instability in Bangladesh,
then there are problem in northeastern areas and migrant crisis in India and other issues. So political stability of Bangladesh, good democratic functioning of Bangladesh, and prosperity of Bangladesh is directly interlinked with the Indian stability, Indian peace, and Indian prosperity. So on this line, after discussion with our Indian International Activist Council member, so because I am part of International Activist Council, after discussion with multiple activist group from Bangladesh, we decided to do such type of discussion here in New Delhi, and now I request you all to put some light in our mentioned topic, Democracy Dialogue Bangladesh. So based on that, we will prepare some white papers and some news article, and we will prepare a strategy for better Indo-Bangladesh ties. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You circulated a sheet. We have circulated a sheet in which some pointers have been given. So, in case anyone wants to make any observation or make any comment, please are welcome. And in case somebody has not got an opportunity to introduce, please do introduce yourself.
Dr. Madhukar is being like
Oh, please.
So I believe we can have a leading, we have 10 slides also.
Okay, yeah.
So this is first slide, so it can be a very important of the conversation if someone wants to.
Can you pass the mic to Madhukar sir?
Madhukar, okay.
There is there's second mic.
Since
Yes. Well,
Hello, I am Dr. Madhukar Shyam. I am associated with NatStrat. I am their research associate. I am working as a research associate. I am also working as an assistant professor in Delhi University, and I did my PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University and continuously reading China and its engagement in South Asia. So therefore, I am interested in this topic of studying Bangladesh democracy. Thank you. Thanks.
let's start from this section. Yes.
So in this slide, because all we heard that in past 20 years, Bangladesh achieved very remarkable success in few areas. Now Bangladesh is economic power in some segment, and the trade between India and Bangladesh is the highest as per last week report. So now we are sitting here just a week after G20 summit here in Delhi, and in that Bangladesh was inviting guest. So for our geopolitics and our current regime and for prosperity of India, the progress and achievement of Bangladesh is very important, and for that political stability is must. If Bangladesh is politically stable and democracy is working fine, then that will be good for India. So this is my observation. So On this observation, I hand over my mic to other esteemed guests to put some light.
Let's ask from this.
Yes.
Please be brief and so others can also have opportunity.
Okay. See, my
Yeah. No, I have already encroached.
see, I have traveled to Bangladesh many times. My suggestion would be that we should be focusing more on the trade side. Because what happens once we start interfering in the political matters of neighbors, it's a problematic situation because no one accepts that. We can talk in a very soft manner, but once we start criticizing, once we start poking our unnecessary our nose into their internal affairs, that's the beginning of the problem. Because we have borders, yeah, we have problems, so we should address that. Infiltration is there, the migrant problems are there. But one thing where we should focus is that Bangladesh imports about 80% of their products. So that's where our industries, our systems should work. The moment we have our investments, including government, if we have our investments there, I think we can be in more commanding position because money makes things move. So that is where our focus should be, and we should partner in various things. This is my suggestion. This is what we should be doing.
I think he made a very good point, and the main point, as my colleague Ghanshyamji has said, that is it audible? Yeah. He has said that, see, basically what we have to understand is that Bangladesh and India, we are one country, and that one country, for whatever reason, in 47 we made that into two countries, or rather three countries. And now the two countries, that is Bangladesh and us, we are trying to make that as a one country through trade, through commerce and so on. Now in that, you see, we have to understand that unless you work as one country with Bangladesh, it is not good for us and it is not good for them. In the sense that all your riverine systems, your sea, your population, your culture, it is all integrated. Now, what we have to do is that in terms of trade, whatever trade that you are talking about, that is the formal sector, but there is a huge informal sector that is prevalent because of this paper is very well prepared. It has got out, we got a long border of 4,000 kilometers with Bangladesh, which was one country. Now we have made that into two. So 4,000 kilometers border, how do you ever police it? Is it not? It is not possible. So you have a lot of informal trade of both goods as well as services. Now Bangladesh has given you a lot of cheap labor, which is helping you. Now Bangladesh is doing well, so not so many people are coming into the country. But all your, at Eid, Eid ul-Adha, your cows from India, they go to Bangladesh. And they are being used for celebrating Eid there. So you can't stop them because of the long border that's going on. Similarly, food grains, rice and wheat, whatever that Bangladesh is able to take officially, much more is coming through the porous border. Now Bangladesh has got a big problem of foreign exchange, it has got a big problem of debt, and its laws and rules are totally out of date. To open an LC, and Bangladesh insists that whatever you import into the country, it has to be through an LC. But to open an LC is almost impossible given the banking system there and the bank guarantees that are required. So I think that if you want Bangladesh to be with us, one thing is that you have to remember is that you can't have Akhand Bharat. You can't get Bangladesh back into Bengal. And it is good for them because they are now seen as a LDC by the developed countries, and all the concessions that they are getting from the developed country, like for example, European Union, it allows duty-free entry of Bangladesh goods into Europe. Similarly, there is a GSP that US gives to Bangladesh. Now they don't do the same thing for Bihar or Orissa, which are even more backward than Bangladesh. But at least Bangladesh is getting something. South Asia is getting something. So we have to accept that they are part of us, yet they are different. That being so, all the barriers that we put, non-tariff barriers that we put on imports and exports from Bangladesh, quarantine restrictions and anti-dumping duty and goods crossing the custom border at Petrapol every other day, there is firing because the port is not able to handle so much traffic that is there. Now similarly, somebody came to me the other day and they said that it is much cheaper to take goods from Chittagong to Mundra port rather than taking them by land, because Chittagong is a very highly developed port, and so from there doing it from Bay of Bengal and then up to Mundra, it's much cheaper. Similarly, Sitwe, that is in Burma. So from Burma, it's very easy to ship goods from Mizoram to Sitwe and then from Sitwe to Chennai. Very fast. So like that, I think the whole paradigm has to change, and we have to accept. We are working very closely with Bangladesh, but we have to accept them as what they are and work closely, as Dipti was saying, as a good neighbor. We have to work like that. So that being so, I think our whole attitude must change. We must see it as one country which is divided into two sub-countries. So the whole attitude, I think, has to undergo a change. With these words, I pass on the mic to Dipti.
She wanted to speak.
Thank you. I'll just add a few things to what has been said before. On promoting democracy, which is basically the main theme of this conference, I would like to go back to Gandhiji, who said poverty is the worst form of violence, and poverty's eradication provides us the best chance of democracy, stability, and democracy is a shared value between India and Bangladesh, unlike some of the neighbors around it. The areas of cooperation should be in our strengths, which is and our concerns, which is agri-tech and fintech and edu-tech, and the environment, and of course today gender parity. One way to raise the living standards, as the gentleman has said, is through trade, and we have to enlarge our vision. And in that, I have a slight diversion from you. When we say we must look at this as a one entity, Bangladesh and India, I would say no, we should move away from that thinking and look at geography. And if you see that, then Bangladesh and West Bengal's natural markets should be eastward, not northward towards the India heartland. So this is where I believe we can expand, and Southeast Asia is a stable, unlike Europe and even NAFTA, it is a stable economic entity. The trade should be there, and I've seen that side is very willing to expand this trade. And this is the way we should raise living standards. Look east, and as the older government said, and the present government said, act east. That is what we should do.
In addition to, hello, am I audible? Okay. See, the thing is the heading. Bear me for a few more minutes. You are talking about Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, this heading. So, apart from talking about the trade and other things, first we need to get to the ground reality. Ground reality, the actual fabric. We have a veteran of 71 war. So, sir, you know what was the actual scenario in East Pakistan. And till date, the Bangladeshi people. They say a rhythm like Hasina re Hasina, Tor kothay nachina, Tor baper kothay nachiya, Shadher Pakistan haraila. मतलब हसीना तेरे बाप के कहने पे हमने उछल के अपना जो प्यारा पाकिस्तान हमने खो दिया. तो आर वी रियली डीलिंग विद बांग्लादेश और वी आर हैविंग अनदर पाकिस्तान जो हमसे ही रसद लेके हमारे थ्रू ही मजबूत होके हमारे लिए कल को थ्रेट बनेंगे. एक बात सर ने कहा कि उनके इंटरनल मामलों में दखल देना, हमें सिर्फ ट्रेड के बारे में सोचना चाहिए. 71 के बाद से मुजीबर रहमान वाज असैसिनेटेड इन 75 15th of August अपने धानमंडी के हाउस में. उसके बाद बांग्लादेश ने कूप देखा बाय द इनफेमस मिस्टर एरशाद. उसके बाद 91 में जो स्यूडो इलेक्शंस हुए, उसकी जो चीजें, जिन चीजों को हम नजरअंदाज नहीं, जिन्हें हम, इट्स लाइक अ पिंक एलिफेंट इन द रूम, एवरीवन इज अवेयर अबाउट दैट बट नोबडी वांट्स टू टॉक अबाउट दैट. 92 में बाबरी मस्जिद यहाँ पे डेमोलिश होती है और वहां पे हिंदुओं पे और बौद्धों पे अत्याचार शुरू होते हैं. हिंदू वुमेन आर गैंग रेप्ड. ठीक है. उसी साल तस्लीमा नसरीन एक किताब लिखती है लज्जा, जहां पे दिखाया जाता है एक हिंदू फैमिली जो मुक्ति युद्ध में पार्टिसिपेंट थे बट हाउ दे वर बीइंग टॉर्चर्ड. उस घर के मालिक को कैसे उसके जेनेटल्स म्यूटिलेट किए गए, उस घर की लड़की को कैसे उठाया गया, उसका लड़का कैसे फ्रस्ट्रेट होके पूरी फैमिली रातों रात अंधेरे में इंडियन बॉर्डर क्रॉस करके पार हो रहा है. 93 में वो बुक छपती है. 94 में तस्लीमा नसरीन बांग्लादेश से भागने पे मजबूर होती हैं और टिल डेट शी इज नॉट एबल टू रिटर्न टू दैट कंट्री. दिस इज द एक्चुअल सिनेरियो ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी इन बांग्लादेश. तस्लीमा नसरीन के सर पे आज भी अवार्ड है. आज तक पिछले 2 सालों में जिस तरीके से दुर्गा पूजा के मंडपों पे हमले हो रहे हैं, हिंदू वुमेन आर बीइंग अबडक्टेड लाइक एनीथिंग. उनको अबडक्ट करके इस बॉर्डर से क्रॉस करके उनको आप कहाँ पा रहे हैं? यहाँ पे जिसे कहते हैं, क्या कहते हैं, जीबी रोड, बॉम्बे के ब्रॉथल्स में हिंदू औरतें रेस्क्यू हो रही हैं. और सबसे बड़ी बात है, इनफिल्ट्रेशन का सबसे बड़ा इशू है कि वहां पे हिंदुओं की हालत ऐसी हो रही है कि वो लोग बॉर्डर क्रॉस कर रहे हैं बट टू मेक अ बेटर लाइफ, जो बीए में पास लड़के लड़कियां हैं यहाँ पे आके फर्जी मैट्रिक का सर्टिफिकेट बना रहे हैं ताकि वो लोग एक लाइवलीहुड अर्न कर सके. तो हमारी जिंदगी में उसका क्या प्रेशर होता है? एक 10वीं पास जो मेंटली 15 साल का है, अगर उसके साथ कंपटीशन में एक 21 साल का लड़का जो फर्जी 10th सर्टिफिकेट लेकर कॉम्पीट कर रहा है मेडिकल एंट्रेंस पे, इंजीनियरिंग एंट्रेंस पे, तो जो हम वेस्ट बंगाल में है उन बच्चों का क्या होगा? तो इनफिल्ट्रेशन इज अ बिग इशू. आप ट्रेड को बोल सकते हैं लेकिन ये जो हमारे इकोनॉमी पे जो प्रेशर पड़ रहा है.
Sorry to interrupt. Ananya, as a part of our sequence at number 7 and number 8, we will discuss about human rights, minority situation. So please, we focus on slide and subject.
It's Sheikh Hasina regime only. You are talking about Bangladesh's progress and achievements. It's about Sheikh Hasina only. रोहिंग्या को उन लोगों ने जगह नहीं दी, बर्मा से भगाए गए, रोहिंग्या को उन लोगों ने जगह नहीं दी, रोहिंग्या को हम जगह दे रहे हैं. तो हम क्या बांग्लादेश के साथ डील कर रहे हैं कि आर वी डीलिंग विद अनदर पाकिस्तान? वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट.
Yes. Next slide. It's about G20 participation, Bangladesh G20 participation, and it was a kind of achievement for Bangladesh because Bangladesh is not a member of G20, but in spite of that, India invited Bangladesh, and for India's geopolitical strategy as well as Asia Pacific strategy, Bangladesh is very important. And we have to understand the global and our limitation, our political, our economical limitation, and this is part of government diplomacy to give priorities to Bangladesh interest and promote Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is because of India. You know the fact. Bangladesh is because of India. You all know this fact. Yes, please.
I will contribute there. And let me just bring your attention before we lose time, because it's very limited, that Bangladesh is in danger today. And there's World Bank and IMF reports on climate change, which says that South Asia is going to be devastated. It is going to be wiped from this global map. We will never have South Asia, and forget about these things like Bangladesh and Nepal and Sri Lanka and these fights that we have. So what we have to, whatever we are speaking here is truth, but this is the time to really come together as a region and avert climate change. So number one, are we financially equipped to help Bangladesh, or is Bangladesh financially equipped itself? Because if you look at 27 rivers that they have, 1998 floods they have, 2/3 of Bangladesh underwent water, right? We have seen a trailer this season, right? We saw what happened, how the floods are coming, what's happening in Europe, right? Libya, just like last week, and our own region. So charity begins at home. As South Asia, we have to think that tomorrow, if Bangladesh faces something, it will come to India, right? We have glaciers on top, we have sea at the bottom. So Maldives is another vulnerable region. The birds that migrate, the people that migrate. So today we are saying that this is infiltration is an issue, that is an issue, this is an issue. So we have to first help. Only help will eradicate the issues, not any more political issues. So what we have to address really is, and I'm going to finish that, is politics. And that is something that everyone is very scared of, because that's why we use dialogue, democracy. I do that all the time. And then I said, can I be brave and say political peace in South Asia? Can we say Union of South Asia? Can we be brave, courageous, and actually receive help and ask for help? Because this is something that the root cause of violence, and someone just said poverty, disease, and hunger. These are the three things that are the root cause of violence, and this is happening because there is no political peace in this region. We are vulnerable as citizens. I'm a mother of 2 children. I don't know what future they have tomorrow. So let's talk about what's the real danger, which is climate change, gentlemen. And then democracy will follow, because if you do not have the region, I don't think you will have these meetings. So with that, I will say let's go back to objective and really be focused on solutions. We know the problems.
Thanks, Rachna, for setting the context on a more plausible note. So the politics of today has many dimensions and nuances. We always keep discussing about it. But today, let's have a constructive decision on the solutions as far as they're concerned. Abhishek had given me a small brief that Election Commission in Bangladesh is making a new effort to bring democracy, if I'm right, if I've collected you right. So I'll give the next chance to Mr. Mohammed to share his types of me, because he is the most learned man in the room as far as elections are concerned.
Thank you, ma'am. Initially, the question of democracy sliding world over is very, very, very important and very worrying. In fact, there are 2 books. One is How Democracies Die, and the other one is How Elections Fail, Why People Notice. If you read that, it very clearly makes out that most of the democracies are following the same route. We are going to slide down gradually, unless some sort of awakening is there. People don't really rise up and start taking action on their own. In our interaction with the Election Commission of Bangladesh has been, from Election Commission of India side, has been very intense. In fact, I personally went there, talked to international stakeholders, various embassies and organizations, UNDP, IFAS, and so on and so forth. I talked to the women organizations, talked to the civil service and society organizations,
I talked to past election commissioners and present election commissioner at that time. And I also met Mr. Gauhar Rizvi, who was the Prime Minister. I don't know whether he's still there or not. He was advisor. Tried to elicit what exactly is ailing the Commission. And we find that the rules and procedures are very close to Indian procedures. In fact, they seem to have been, we have representation of People's Act, they also have representation of People's Act. Even names are same. Procedure, most of them are same. But when it comes to really delivery, they have been failing. In fact, the only election that is treated as credible is 2008 election. After that, the new government, the present Hasina government, they took away the special criteria that was given, that you should have a separate government, independent government, to run elections. So that was basically what was happening is none of the elections were credible. So what Supreme Court I think ordered that there should be the government should be completely independent, and I think Chief Justice at that time was made to run the election in 2008, and he made massive arrangements and he didn't listen to anybody, and that election is still internationally considered as the most credible election. After that, when Sheikh Hasina came, they said according to the constitution and there is no specific provision for this kind of thing. So she removed the procedures. So next election came in 2013, and the BNP, the main opposition party, they said we will boycott the elections. And I was given a feeling that some international organizations and some embassies nudged BNP to boycott it, so that the government is not recognized, and then ultimately they have to have another election so that they can come back. But anyway, so that was the situation at that time. They boycotted. But somehow when they realized they're falling in 2018, they came back, and all of them, all opposition parties, they came as a coalition. They could not make more than 6 or 10 seats. I think that was in a house of 300 plus. I think 300, their total number is 300. Or 250 is through PR, and 50 is through PR. 50 is women. 50 is women through PR. Exactly the same method is followed in Pakistan also. And the remaining 250 are through the constituency that we have, that's called for father post system. The problem of these ladies who have come through 50, reservation of 50, their problem was that nobody treats her as important. They say, oh, these fellows have been nominated, they have not conducted election. So even if we say in India we need to increase the number to 800 and add remaining up to beyond 543 as PR, maybe the same feeling may come here also, that the ladies who are coming as a nominated candidate, they are also elected candidates on the basis of party, on the basis of proportional representation. So that was the problem they had, that we should have some way of getting the recognition that we are also public representatives. That was the problem with them. Commissioners said that we have an issue that we want some infrastructure is missing. Government gives it either too late, very close to election, that they are not able to make any use, they are not able to train the people on the particular thing. They want to have voter education properly, they are not able to do that. So actually, all kind of problems are there as far as I can understand on the ground. Internationally today, another kind of thing is emerging, because China is important, and to sort of control China, when EU and US and all major powers have started saying that we will pressurize Bangladesh to have free and fair election. Now, if you have free and fair election, then actually China may get a leverage, because they might really, they're very close to Chinese. In fact, loans, a lot of loans they have taken already from China. EVM they are using from China. So they are very closely connected. as on today. So we have to find a way that we are able to get a good election there, but at the same time we don't push them beyond a point. Now how it can be done? Probably the Election Commission of Bangladesh itself has been very serious about election reforms. And in fact the kind of best practices guidelines that I formulated at that time, that was also in the same line that something we should find out what are the problems and how to deal with that. First was the appointment of election commissioners. They have the same system that we have. The Prime Minister proposes and it is appointed. And generally it was felt that they were not up to the mark. Then the suggestion was given, in fact in the report also it was given, that there should be consultation with the opposition parties before appointing election commissioners. Last time when the appointment was being made, BNP boycotted the consultation process. Now they boycotted election, they boycotted the consultation process for appointment of commissioners. Then how to really go about it? So best way is, I think, BNP has to come out clean and let people for themselves decide how fair the election is. Now a few people even in BNP have been given a feeling that even now in 2023 they are going to boycott, hopefully. But many people say January 24. January 24. But many people say that large number of BNP people still they want election to be, they want to participate in elections. Now if they don't participate in election, we might have the situation of 2013 again. And there will be nobody to check the other side. Because in election what happens, the ruling party and opposition, they cancel each other's illegalities also. They are watchful, they are watching, they check each other's. So participating and contesting is very important if you really want to have cleaner elections. So that was one issue raised. Election Commission of Bangladesh, they have agreed actually that they will be able to use technology to increase transparency in their electoral process. Like many political parties, opposition parties, they said we are not even the voter list. Now, and not even results. Now it's very funny, results are, their vote is counted on the polling station itself, the same day after the election is over. Opposition parties representatives, they have the result. So why they should be insisting or feeling bad we are not getting the result on the website? Probably because they don't want to work with their lower level functionaries to collect all information, compile it, and sort of make their own point. They want somebody else to do their job. So that is one. But voter list, of course, when we were told, we asked the Election Commission, why don't you give the voter list? Because it is a matter of transparency, people should know whether their name is there or not. And then only they will be able to take action. A commission says we give them electronic copy free and printed copy we give it at a cost. But the political parties don't like it, they say that no, it is just in words, they don't practice it. Now these are the small areas where we can really engage with them more proactively and ask them to really follow. There is no harm. After all, let people also feel that they are being a part of it. If only two political parties fight, they virtually abuse on media. These two ladies, they virtually abuse each other. So if they can't sit together and talk on equal footing to bring about and for reform in the electoral process, outside interference will be very difficult. Outside engagement will be very difficult. So best way is probably to engage with them if they want some technology, help them, sort of do hand holding in that process. By the way, I tell you one thing, their election ID card is the best in the world. Their election ID card equivalent to national ID card. The quality is so good. And the procedure is more or less similar that we do, but they do biometrics, they do collection, like our Aadhaar is there. They collect fingerprint, they collect. Iris, I don't think they are going to introduce iris, but they collect on the basis of that they create card like our Aadhaar card, which is their election card. So that is one of the basics. In fact, I've been telling participants in the training that you should learn from Bangladesh as far as the election ID card is concerned. On that side, they have done really well, very well. And the reason was that probably they were given freedom to do that. But if you don't give them freedom, how will they be able to do better? So that is something I would say. With those, we have a stake in elections in Bangladesh, but the solution lies in educating people there, trying to sort of bring in transparency at every stage, use technology for bringing and supporting transparency and equity, and a kind of advocacy that people you can't run away. If you don't participate in election, basically you are not really going to do any good to the country. So to your party as well as to the country. If you are harming both, BNP is harming the country as well as their own party. So these are the basic things that we should be really thinking about. And one final thing is not related to election as such. Northeast, actually, economy of Northeast can really improve if we get transit through Bangladesh. If our goods from Northeast can be transited through, because the route available at present is too long and becomes too costly to get any goods from there. And there you can have organic farming, organic fruits, and all kind of things you can produce in Northeast. So for our Northeast development, that area, also it is necessary that we should develop a system where at least this kind of infrastructure is allowed. And in Act East policy, I think it was allowed. But the roads and connectivity that was supposed to be there, the work is very slow. I think those things have to be done a little more in detail. And I'm all for really supporting efforts that the Election Commission is able to do better in their own way. Of course, politics has its own problems, but at least we administrators can do more. Okay.
Sir, I would like to seek your views on that's critical. I suppose you have first-hand information. How this mechanism of independent observer or caretaking government, it was abolished earlier, but it has worked.
It has worked, and in fact that is why BNP has been saying when that Sheikh Hasina government came to power, it was BNP in power actually when this independent thing was done. At that time, the election for them was not a problem, and they agreed to that. And that's why they say we should have the same arrangement, that there should be independent government. And recently in Pakistan also they made independent government to run the election. That is the thinking they have, and probably it is because there was a misuse of power by the ruling establishment beyond tolerable limits. So within tolerable limits, people tolerate, and the local level they are able to cancel out each other. And there some A will do some exercise, and the party B will also do similar, so they utilize on the ground. But when it becomes too much from the ruling class, then people also don't like it. Probably that's why people are still demanding. But it is not necessary actually if they make the whole thing transparent. Transparency is not there, and that is why doubts become more. Bring in transparency, maybe 12% will not be required.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ashman. Now, the point here is right now, there is a need for a stable democracy in Bangladesh. And the elections are going to be a fraught exercise unless steps are taken right now. In my discussions with senior Bangladeshi officials, particularly at the embassy, I had raised this point with them, and they said that firstly, regarding the caretaker government, provision does not exist in the constitution for that. But, as you very correctly said, that can be taken care of if you maintain transparency all throughout. That is one. The transparency. The people perceive, they see that it's transparent. Second, the largest opposition party has to be brought on board, which is not happening. And it goes beyond just politics. There is a lot of personal animosity
between the two most important leaders. When Begum Zia's son died, I'm trying to tell you how bitter it is. It's very easy to talk on these terms, but when there is personal animosity, it's very difficult to come and shake hands and embrace each other. When Begum Zia's son died, Sheikh Hasina personally went to Begum Zia's house to convey her personal condolences, and she was not allowed entry into the house. She had to go back from the gate. So I would like you to bear this in mind when we talk of, and I think India has had, because thanks to G20 and the other successes, I mean we have to be very fair here. The G20 was an outstanding success. There is no doubt about it. In fact, I didn't expect that our bureaucrats and all notoriously inefficient, but the fantastic work that was done by the government of India, the initiative by Mr. Modi as PM, the bureaucrats and the backroom boys, whatever they did. So India's position thanks to G20 is at a high. Never mind the backsliding regarding the GDP and per capita. That's a separate issue. And I think along with the transparency, incidentally, America right from the beginning, you see, they are concerned as a democracy, as the oldest democracy in the world, they have been sending representatives from time to time to Bangladesh. Okay, what are you doing now? Because the word is there, has gone around, that Bangladesh, is it really a democracy? It seems as if it's practically a one-man show, because when the most important party boycotts it, then what is there about a democracy? There is nothing about democracy. So there have been every few months, including in April 2023, representatives, very senior representatives have been interacting with the Bangladesh government. What are you doing to bring about? You see, it's being monitored. It's being monitored. And ultimately, it would have to be Sheikh Hasina and the Bangladesh government. And they are also concerned because there was, in the last election, there was a lot of criticism that this is no democracy, don't talk about democracy at all, because you are just not there. So they are also a bit concerned, and it is important that they reach out to BNP. And I was just a thought which occurred to me, that India being in the position that she is, and India has a very important stake that the elections are free and fair, and that there is a stable government. Otherwise, there's going to be havoc. Vishama, you said about the funds, etc., for climate change.
Right.
All that is important, but first we must have that. Otherwise, what is the instrumentality by which you will spend the money? I mean, you can have funds. What is the instrumentality by that it reaches responsible people in Bangladesh? There has to be a stable government. And India, it's very important that India plays a role. And India, Begum Zia has always been a bit suspicious of India, unlike Sheikh Hasina, who has a very warm relationship with and Sheikh Hasina herself, her secular credentials are impeccable compared to the other. I think it would be excellent, because right now, the way I have seen it and my whatever interactions that I have had, a rapprochement between Begum Zia and Sheikh Hasina, that is the most important thing, the single most important thing. Poverty alleviation, all that will come later. But you need, January 24 is just knocking on the door. And very important role can be played by our diplomats. Mr. Jaishankar himself is a veteran, absolutely, in seeking some kind of rapprochement between the Awami League, because they don't talk to each other. See, I can shake hands with you, provided you also reach out. And the fact is that they are keen, short of a caretaker government, they are prepared to do a lot. Otherwise, they have no credibility. It's not for anything else, they lack credibility. And another thing is, China has always had a strategy, all of us are aware, how to encircle India. They have done it with Nepal, you have seen the kind of thing. Pakistan has always been, and China openly says that the most reliable with that state of Pakistan, whether it exists after 10 years or not, we don't know. But they say our most reliable partner is Pakistan. Bangladesh has not been very easy, and the Bangladeshi people have not forgotten about what was the Chinese behavior in the 1971 war. But China is making amends by the huge loans, etc. And if India is to counter China one way, if it can get some kind of the BNP to cooperate, because I can't imagine the Awami League reaching out to the BNP, because I've told you it's when there is such personal hatred and animosity, it goes beyond politics. If a third party is there, bring about this kind of some kind of middle ground, I think Indian diplomacy, that is the next test for Indian diplomacy. Thank you.
In such case, I would like to, in such case, the Communist Party of Bangladesh are doing actually good. When the Hindu mandaps were being vandalized, there was a huge protest march.
Always, traditionally, the communist parties
Yes.
have been the most
There can be a
secular.
third option.
No, they can be co-opted.
It's a
At the
good
same
topic.
time we're saying.
Please, can anybody enlighten on this?
Yeah, because-
We are not aware of this.
Um,
We have heard of it, but.
To take on from what you just mentioned, that gets me to the second point, that South Asia needs an institution. So what we have to also focus is, why we are talking about, it's fantastic to talk about, friendship between India and Bangladesh, but we need overall, functionality and friendship at all South Asian level for us to be able to say that tomorrow, for example, you said there has to be a regime in place or correct way of running the
Otherwise you can't talk
government,
to
right?
anybody. Otherwise
So
you
in
can't
other,
talk.
all successful regions, and I always take the example of European Union because they have been the most successful ones. Instead of having the 7 wars they participated in, all the world wars, Spanish War, talk about the Cold Wars, they have blood on their hands, but they came together as a region, right? They came together as a region, they ruled the world, and we have no such history. We are only a partition land, but still, we don't have an institution. I don't think there is any country and a group of countries where the politicians will ever come together internally, externally, or in geopolitical relationships. We just mentioned we will get into family histories and they don't talk to this and they don't talk to this, because that is why we need systems, procedures, and institutions. My biggest suggestion would be that everyone should get involved and say, how do we make SAARC functional again? And if there is no SAARC right now, is there anyone who can foster SAARC? If there's this institution who can foster SAARC, and what can we do? That is how we will be able to also probably pump in money. Whether that is private sector money, whether that is money from India. But I feel Bangladesh is in danger. I am saying it again and again. Please put this as a part of your agenda, and everything else will fall in place.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
I
Shaman.
would like to
Excuse me, let's,
Just-
so I just wanted to
See-
thank Shaman for his comments, very mature and very substantive and positive. And I think that's a good way to approach the whole thing. I would like to interject
No,
now to
I would like to
say
add
that,
one point.
I want to introduce a new guest to us, Mr. Pankaj Sir. He's been ambassador in Bangladesh also. We would like to hear him. And let us see what he has to say as opening remarks. So that we will follow a positive sort of trade. And you will get an opportunity. Let's try to.
What I was saying that in process of talking about Bangladesh, we are having an agenda to vilify China. But to eradicate the issue, first we need to find the root cause. We are talking about the partition and everything, how Bangladesh was created. But the sole agenda behind the partition in the Indian subcontinent, it was a US agenda. Because US wanted control over the Central Asian oil. That is why they needed Pakistan. And they needed another partitioned land in West Asia, that is Israel and Palestine. So every time we are pointing finger at China, but if we don't go beyond that, if we don't understand the hidden agendas of US, then also we are in a very slippery slope.
I think you are drifting away. Sir, I'd like to request you to please join us in this discussion, sir.
Well, thank you very much actually for inviting me, and I think I missed most of the discussion, so I don't know whether my remarks will flow from the previous discussions, but I'll just make a few opening remarks so that the flow can continue. Well, I have spent many years there in different capacities. I'm so glad firstly that someone in Delhi and not Calcutta is focusing on Bangladesh, because there is a point of view that the partition's real devastating consequences were more in the east than the west. And when you visit and talk to people there, both in Bangladesh and in the northeast, you get a sense of why there is this view. So I think Bangladesh is actually really important for India, and everything that happens there affects us across the board. So that's, I think, the first point. Among all neighbors, I think this is really a very, very critical neighbor. Secondly, the relationship, it has really, and books have been written about how we moved from one extreme and to the other in the pendulum, from extreme friendship to extreme hostility. And there is a huge overlay of history, of culture, of religion. And how do we navigate? And is this the job only of the two governments, or do other stakeholders also come in, like civil society, intellectuals, the cultural world, business? That's a question which we have to ask. And my last point, which I'll just stop here, is of course Bangladesh today is in the focus because it is expected to go for elections perhaps in the next 3 months. And clearly everyone in Bangladesh is talking only about this. As is usual before the election, there are strong views, strong opinions inside the country about themselves, about India, and so you have a range of opinions starting from objective analysis to conspiracy theories. So you will come across people who will see India behind everything, blame India for every ill of Bangladesh. So actually, paradoxically, in some sense, it is still a very polarized society. They are united by the language and the culture, but it's a lesson for all of us that to what extent do you keep dividing nationalities and nations and going into subnational identities, and which is that point where everyone will feel secure and you reach a level of homogeneity which everyone is comfortable with. So when the partition took place, it was felt that we needed a homeland for the Muslims, and it was believed that was the real solution to the problems. And of course, we know the history. Then you had Bangladesh. Now today in Bangladesh, you still have very, very serious fault lines between the Chittagong Hill Tracts, the Bengali settlers in the hill tracts, the Sylhetis versus those in the south. So whenever we discuss, we have to reflect on how much and how far can you keep dividing countries or breaking them up to find that ideal situation where everyone is happy within the country and between countries. So these are some just reflections, and when we discuss democracy in Bangladesh, we have to also keep in mind that, you know, when external countries discuss developments in some other country, you can approach the problem in different ways. You know, either you come from a perch of arrogance, saying that I know best what is good for you, or you are completely indifferent to what happens. You know, so we've gone through different kind of philosophies over time. You know, the famous responsibility to protect, which was invented by the Canadians and the West, about saying that sovereignty is not absolute. What happens inside a country is my concern. Then you had, you know, international humanitarian law. So then you have had cases where democracy is exported by force, mostly, not so much by example. And then you have people who even question whether is democracy the best form of government. That also is a point to be. And there are some societies, some cultures, and we have to, I think as India we have a legitimate authority to say that the world is multi-civilizational. It is not a uniform world. So, of course, we signed on to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and United Nations and everything else, but we can all, in our own experiences, list countries who have never been democracies. And not only that, but the people have actually never agitated for democracy. And they've been very comfortable with what they've had.
Bhutan, for example.
So, well, there are many. I mean, Egypt, Russia, China.
Norway.
You know, so there are so many. Egypt, for example, that's my favorite example. 30 years of Hosni Mubarak. Basically, he was an Air Force officer. They were the principal US ally in the Middle East. And for those 30 years, he never was told to have a quote-unquote free and fair election, because he served a strategic purpose for the United States. So it was a very cozy relationship. But when it comes to other countries, then the question is whether we have double standards, and we have to also keep that in mind. So I'll just stop here and maybe go on with, please carry on with the rest of the discussion.
Dr. Ashok? We have not heard you.
I think we have discussed a hell lot of issues here, starting from climate change to how to ensure free and fair elections in Bangladesh. But I would like to take off from where Ambassador Pankaj Saran left. In fact, who are we to dictate as to how Bangladesh is going to conduct its elections? In fact, another thing I would like to point out that as a state, and I'm really echoing Ambassador Saran, our responses have varied between indifference and arrogance, and we have to see how best our interests can be protected there. You know, since the afternoon we have been discussing, you know, one land, one country, partition land, blah blah blah. But we have to recognize that it is a sovereign country, a sovereign neighbor, and we have our limits as far as influencing elections in the country is concerned. And it is, as a democratic country, we can say that, you know, we must ensure that there will be free and fair elections. But why do you presume that there will not be free and fair elections? And why do we fall prey to the Western campaign and Western notions of what it means to be free and fair? In fact, day before yesterday, we had an interesting guest from US in our institute. You know him, sir? Alan Cronstad. Alan Cronstad was there with a Bangladeshi expatriate, Bangladeshi American lady. And when I asked both of them as to how do you look at the scenario, evolving scenario in Bangladesh, the Bangladeshi American lady said, well, I am not interested in discussing this issue at all. I am a person who is dealing with trade and commerce and US trade laws. I'm more comfortable discussing that. Then I turned to Alan. I said, Alan, yes. And I said, Alan, what is your take on this? Alan said, no. We are very, very particular about it. Bangladesh must have free and fair elections. I have been there twice during the last few months, and I have never found Bangladeshis so warmly receiving an American as they did to me during my stay this time. I said, I would guess that you must have been surrounded by either Jamatis or the BNP sympathizers. No, there you are. In fact, our leaders systematically avoided me. So that was the way things are today. Here, there, in a way, the Western sympathies are moving away from Sheikh Hasina in a way, and that has got to do with their notions of Bangladesh turning to leaning towards China as well to a certain extent. This is one of the many components. Of course, you have to give it to Americans that even if they have always had the best of relations with the sachedoms in all dictatorial, non-democratic sachedoms in the Middle East, they would always like to export democracies to other parts of the world in their terms. And as we all know, one of the reasons why American intervention in Afghanistan failed was because of their insistence that this presidential system of democracy that we have has to be imposed on Afghanistan. Very overly centralized kind of a system. So while we are talking about bringing democracy to Bangladesh, I think we are being very, very patronizing in our conditioning and patronizing in our attitude, which we must avoid. And B, we must be looking at our own interests there. As things stand today, as all of you know, and I haven't covering Bangladesh for the last 20 years, if not more, I have found out that among the political players that we have in Bangladesh today, Sheikh Hasina comes across as most favorable in a way, as far as India is concerned. But she has problems, like all leaders in different democracies in the world today have. The world is moving away from democracy, and we have reached a stage where we are discussing whether democracy is the best system of governance or not. In fact, if I go back to Aristotle said it is one of the worst forms of democracy. And he said that the only best government that we have in mind is a benevolent dictatorship. Having said that, let me tell you, like I had Mr. Ray saying that India must try to
I'm sorry to say. Never was it my intention to say that we will catch Sheikh Hasina by the scruff of her neck and please speak. That's not the idea. We just said if two people are not able to even talk to each other, and you know that favorable elections cannot take place, something which is fair, unless they at least talk to each other.
Yeah.
And if India, with their consent, with their full consent, acts as a buyer media and gets both of them to sit at a table. That's all I say.
Let me just
I don't think is
expand on that.
Being patronizing.
No, I'm not talking about you.
The other
thing.
will not get matured there.
Yeah.
as we have been saying, was.
Bangladeshis will tell you that what it will tell us. Your democracy the kind of democracy that you have in India is not acceptable to us as well. So that is what I was pointing out. But you made a good point that India
Who
should
does
try
not
to.
accept our democracy?
We should try. No, Bangladeshis themselves. So the point is, rather than saying that rather than falling in trap that we need to bring democracy to Bangladesh, we should be working with the whatever government Bangladesh throws up. Our stakes are very we do not have much stakes in different neighboring countries. We do not have enough stakes even in Nepal today. So the problem is gradually our remains in the entire region is not that of a very benign and benevolent neighbor. So the point I'm making is that we should do it in a very, very quiet manner. If at all we are planning to do something of the kind, we should hide our hands. And second thing I must tell you that coming to BNP, which is the only large opposition party, the only known alternative to Sheikh Hasina's Army League. I must tell you that it is at the moment it is passing through a leadership crisis of some sort. Tariq Jia and his mother, both of them are in London, and people from Bangladesh will tell you that they are sitting in ISI's lab in London. It is very, very difficult even to reach out to him. And
if he lands in Bangladesh today, he will be arrested.
he will be arrested.
He has criminal charges.
Yes, so he has Army League has framed criminal charges against him. So they are not going to come back, and they don't trust either Fakhrul or Khusru or others, who are there, who could take on the mantle. The problem is they are not being able to throw up a second-tier leadership in Bangladesh who would like to take the leadership forward, take the party forward. So they are beset with problems of their own. So we need to keep that in mind. And their effort to reach out to us has always been very problematic. When they would come and tell us that please trust us, we are not going to act against India's interests, we are not going to go against you.
Not to be trusted, actually.
They are not framing it in a manner that you would like to trust them. They are sending some people who have better approach towards India. They have sent people in the National Security Council, to different political parties. India Foundation had also hosted a few of them. They are sitting in London. Their foreign office, the shadow.
Amnesty International.
No, the shadow foreign affairs department, foreign affairs division is also operating from London, and they also come out with a lot of noises. They make a lot of noises about they are being very, very friendly with India. They would come and tell you that Sheikh Hasina is actually taking Bangladesh away from India, and this is taking it towards China. So all these things is there. All these things are there. But the main problem for India is now that in the absence of any other plausible alternative, we have to, in a way, wish for Sheikh Hasina's return to power by all means. So this is the kind of predicament that we have.
But there must be legitimacy, otherwise Sheikh Hasina.
No, I understand. I'm just coming to that.
That's the point. You will not be able to exercise that power.
No, I'm just coming to that. So, so now that is the situation. But then the next question is, if she comes to power by adopting unfair and unfree means, will she be able to run the country the way it's running now? The reaction from Bangladesh is mixed, I must tell you. There are people in from Bangladesh who will tell you that even if free and fair elections were to be held, she has actually appealed to the masses in a manner because of his governance, because of his ability to at least steer the country out of the woods. There is some sense of economic stability there. So if you put it all together, there is also a favorable opinion which may marginally, and bring her back to.
Bread and butter issues, basically.
So,
Shaman, thanks. Thanks.
so we have to.
Dr. Ashok.
Yeah, I'm just winding up.
We can move forward. Yeah.
I'm just winding up. So the point is, I would say that we have to be very, very cautious, and we have to keep watching rather than intervening directly in the politics of Bangladesh at the moment.
So we have discussed the last 15-20 minutes a lot of intricacies of democracy or no democracy, etc. But the fact remains that world is multipolar. Lots of things happening, new ideas are cropping up. There's no equation between democracy and progress or non-democracy and progress. It depends on how the societies conduct themselves. Definitional changes are taking place of each and every word. So what is democracy to one may not be democracy to another person. But from the country's point of view, we should only be able to say that what is best for our country is secure from whoever is governing that other country or any neighborhood. And it would be in our interest to maintain good relations with whichever party or whichever sort of government comes to play. Because that is best thing, and we cannot condemn any ism, or we cannot comment on any ism, because what was there 20 years back is not there today, and tomorrow the power structures and definition changes are, as we see, even now taking place. I now request my friend Ghanshyam to comment on these aspects also.
Thank you. I am glad Ambassador Pankaj Saran came here and spoke to us, because he is the only one in this room who has had the benefit of sitting in Bangladesh for 3 years and working with them. So that's indeed a good benefit for us. Now, the one thing that I wanted to say was that I have been looking at the screen and looking at individual items that are being mentioned by the organizers. And there is no relationship whatsoever between what is mentioned on the screen and what is being talked about on the table. So I think the moderator would have to use a stick or something like that to make sure that we are within the territory that we are supposed to be in. I just wanted to make 2 points. One is relations between nations are conducted at 3 levels: people to people, institution to institution, and leader to leader. People to people relationship will depend on how easy it is to travel across the countries as tourists, as businessmen, as bureaucrats, as film stars, whatever it is. It must be easy for us to interact with one another. Only then we can advise each other, only then we can help each other. The second one is the relations between institutions. When I say institutions, it includes everything: government to government, parliament to parliament, Doordarshan to their Doordarshan, newspapers to newspapers, and colleges to colleges, the whole gamut of institutions. And then comes the relationship between the 2 leaders. They all interact at each other, with one another. And when the relationship between 2 nations is optimally right, at that time you can say that these 3 layers are doing very well. In our case, in the case of Bangladesh, we may say that we have created this country. You may have contributed to a certain extent in the creation of that country, but that is gone, because that generation is dead. How many people are there now who have fought in that war? Not many. That generation has changed, and the country has traveled quite a long distance from that time. And when the second point that I wanted to make is, when we talk about democracy, it's not a single simple word with one meaning in the dictionary. It has changed its structure, and it has changed its shape and size over the years since the Second World War. There is a new phrase which is now called liberal democracy. Democracy is forgotten now. Everybody is talking about liberal democracy. Liberal democracy in which the institutions of governance are independent and autonomous, and there is a check from one institution to the working of the other institutions, At the other end, when you go, it is illiberal democracies. Illiberal democracy is more or less equivalent to dictatorial regimes. But the question is, when we are talking about liberal democracy and illiberal democracy, and the movement today that is happening in the world is the liberal democracies are moving towards illiberal systems. That is the order of the day, and it is being discussed everywhere. And books are being written about it, and I have also read a couple of them. And it's become impossible now to differentiate between what is liberal democracy and what is illiberal democracy, because illiberal democracy has become more popular and it has become more pervasive. And there are many countries which are being talked about. Even in the United States, a former president they sent his reporters right up to the Capitol Hill to demonstrate that the elections were a fake. That is supposed to be a big democracy. I mean, people take that as an example of democracy. It can happen there also. The point that has to be made is, if we go by what kind of suggestions and what kind of individual subheadings were given in the paper, which were also there, I think everybody has got. There are some differences. I found that some items which are mentioned in the note that is given to us are not there in that, and some new items are there in the screen. So that is something which you'll have to sort out. In the end, we will all have to sit together and then see what we can talk about. It is not, it is, as Pankaj Saran was saying, it is not expected of us to say that arrogantly, we know what we are talking about. You don't know, we know how to spell democracy. We are a practicing democracy. We tell you what is democracy. That is not the way. That is why I said the institutions have to, when the Election Commission of India and the Election Commission of Bangladesh sit together and talk morning till evening and have sit and drink together and eat together, they will be able to exchange their ideas. They will be able to implement each other's suggestions far better than giving them one-sided advice. That is not what is expected. So in the final analysis, I think we will have to make sure that the basic tenets that have been given in the paper, we'll have to restrict ourselves to that and then give our opinions accordingly. Then maybe someone can put them all together and make it into some kind of a white paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raja. Anyone want to?
Yeah. I just want to add one point, very short point. We are very lucky to have two ambassadors with us, Ambassador Benjam, who was in Nigeria, and Ambassador Saran in Bangladesh. I just want to add one point, which is a takeaway from this meeting. It is that, you see, we have not really gone deeper into the role of the rupee in South Asia trade. Now, even ASEAN has now passed a resolution by which they are talking about local currency as mediums of exchange, as substitute for dollar. And the rupee has emerged as a very big intervening factor in South Asia trade. Not so much in a formal sense, but in an informal sense. Now, if India, whatever, as Dipti was saying correctly, that whoever comes there, we have to live with it. So if Begum Zia comes, we have lived with her for 10 years when she was present earlier. She may welcome again. So both are welcome, whether it is Zia or whether it is Hasina. But as far as our role is concerned, we have to be very proactive and go ahead and trade with Bangladesh in rupees and not go into the nitty-gritties of RBI, that it has to be a fair trade, they must have something to give us, we are only giving, rupee trade is not being balanced, where are the dollars? It's all right, you have an overhang of rupee and they will pay you back, whether in rupees, whether in dollars, whether in gold, whether in dimes. It's all part of international exchange. So that being so, we should play a more active role in the Bangladesh economy and not leave the field open for China, because China is intent on encircling us. And because we are not playing an active role, Bangladesh is falling in the lap of China. That's all I would like to say. Thank you very much.
I just take one line. When we were discussing about the elections in Bangladesh and India, my perception is that voters or the people of the country are intelligent enough. Today, Bangladesh has got a majority with hardly 15 members from the BNP. So why we should underestimate the mood of the voters, and that government is running, and we have said that GDP has improved a lot, and they are economically, they are very strong. So we must accept that. Second thing, come to the India, it's the same thing happening, one party rule. It's going to stay now globally. This is my perception, because once one party is there, it's much easier for them to implement the policies. Even in our government for 9-10 years, we have seen the progress. Whatever has happened, not that barring the marketing part of it, which can be little more, but basically it is that. So that is what I want to say. We can discuss a lot of it here. We can make a 30-minute discussion on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You made very valid points. I just wanted to interject at this stage to say that we are coming to the closing hours. And high time we consolidate what we have discussed as of now and what we like to say. Let's digest all the facts and the opinions that have come forward to us. But the fact remains that yes, in 1971 Bangladesh was the poorest country, one of the poorest countries in the world. In 2015 it became a lower middle income country, bring it closer to. And 2026 it's supposed to go out of the LDC list. Poverty declined from 42% in 1991 to 13.5% by 2016. And by 2031 it will become an upper middle income country. So these facts are staring in our face. What should bring us is to ground ourselves in reality and saying how can we benefit from our prosperous neighbor? How can this country benefit? Whichever government comes to power, any government which is democratically elected, which can lead its people, and who can take the opportunity to discuss openly in a positive manner, we should be open to that. Now, if you notice that even in our G20 meetings, Bangladesh was called as a special representative because of the influence they can bear to the rest of the nation, especially to India. And it's important and rightly so. One of the hurdles that was mentioned was the climate change. And Bangladesh is the 7th worst affected country. And more than 30 million people are expected to be influenced or affected if the ultimate impact of climate change is felt by the country. If that happens, the country may be set back by many years or many decades, we don't know. And that's something that we should also bear in mind. So a lot of work has been done by Bangladesh towards closing the gender gap. Even between India and Bangladesh, the data is coming up. They probably are doing slightly better, as good as the country could do. The objective of today's discussion is basically to find the common ground of expression between ourselves as to what is happening in that country. I think we had a fairly good understanding, although it was skewed in some parts. We could not cover, as my colleague and friend said, we could not go into the depths of this. Things that we could really want to go into, I think that will leave for people to unburden themselves in the future. But the point is that whether definitional changes are taking place in democracy, and the fact or the opinion that democracies are here to stay, what may, and one who wins will be the winner. That seems to be the philosophy as of this decade. We don't know how it will happen in the future because philosophies are changing, people are changing, communities are changing, and economies are changing rapidly, and therefore this sort of thing is expected. So maybe we have to do a scan of potential future developments in other countries like in Bangladesh and see where we stand in the interest of our own country and how we can guide our own society, our own economy to take the impact or the brunt of what is happening in other countries and react to them in a meaningful and a positive manner. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all for coming here, sharing your time, giving your opinion, especially Dr. Pankaj Saran, who is here, although he came later, but his contribution was very seminal to bring us back to the ground and back to rationality. And my friend Ghanshyam, Mr. Moses, and others, a lot of my friends, Mohammed sir, who come. He's an expert in elections. He gave a very deep insight into the mechanism, election mechanism, how it works and how it can work in future. And I'd like to thank all of you once again for the interest you have evinced in this particular subject and your positive contributions you made to further our understanding in our discussions. Thank you once more.
Thank you. So now we can move to item.
So I'll request all to join us for a cup of tea outside. Excuse me, we would like to give a small token of your presence here by way of memento. So you can collect it now or after as you have tea and leave that. Are you ready?
Doing it now is
Yeah, we
better.
can do it now. Please wait for a minute.
जम्मू कश्मीर का सेक्रेटरी बोल गया
मांगना भी नहीं